Hey, this is Bert, and I gotta make a confession. I non-ironically love the Ewoks movies, especially the Battle for Endor movie. I just think it's a cute, fun movie with some unexpectedly dark moments. And of course, it has the first appearance of blurgs. If you haven't seen it yet, I suggest checking it out. If you have, you might want to check it out again just to see how many props and other things from Return of the Jedi were reused in this film. So in this video, I'm going to break down what props I spotted and where they all show up. Now, I'm not talking to Ewok costumes. In fact, I don't mention them at all. That's its own video somewhere down the line. I'm talking non-Ewok costume pieces, weapons, droids, and even unused Return of the Jedi footage. Plus, there are a couple items from the original Star Wars, now known as A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back, and Indiana Jones that found their way into this film. So let's dive in.
No Skill Customs.
Now, this has been one of my favorite videos to make because watching Battle for Endor again for this video has been a lot like playing Where's Waldo, except you don't know what you're looking for until you find it. So if you're enjoying this video as much as I enjoyed making it, help me reach more viewers by sharing, liking, and subscribing. I really appreciate it. Now for this video, I'm going in mostly chronological order, so stick around until the end to see that unused footage that was filmed for Return of the Jedi and left on the cutting room floor until it found new life in the end battle of this movie. Plus, I got one more thing. It's a little bit off topic, but since I noticed it, I'm also going to show you remnants of a bizarre original ending to this movie that still shows up in the background of some shots. Now, the movie begins with the Marauder attack. The first reuse I spotted is here, and that's Sindel's father, Jeremit Tawani, wearing the Endor Rebel Commando vest. Sindel's brother, Mace, is wearing the same vest, and so actually does Noah at the end of the movie. Now, under that, I'm pretty sure Jeremit Tawani is wearing a Y-Wing pilot jumpsuit that's been slightly modified at the neck by having this little flap thing lowered. He's also holding Chewbacca's welder from Empire Strikes Back that has seen some modifications. Before long, we see a lot of Marauders, and the first Marauder we can see clearly seems to have a Gamorrean guard first skirt over his chest, and another guard has the shoulder armor of this unnamed sail barge henchman on. A short Marauder can be seen with a fanny pack that once belonged to Vizam. And I wonder, did Vizam leave any change, chapstick, or ketchup packets in there for him? Who knows? Moments later, the Marauder, about to strike Sindel, has an ammo gauntlet on his arms, kind of like the Dracelians or Prune Faces from Return of the Jedi have on their forearms. And actually, you might not even notice that they had that. So maybe you learned something about Return of the Jedi right here. This Marauder has the pouches of this unnamed and only briefly visible human barge gunner henchman. Then we see the barge gun itself, and this is definitely one of the most frequently spotted props in this movie, as a pair of Marauders have one again during the final battle, and this is the same gun that's mounted in a couple places onto Noah's ship, and he and an Ewok can both be seen operating it toward the end of the movie. Jabba the Hutt's henchman Vizam that I mentioned earlier would also be proud to see that his chest padding is also seen prominently many times throughout the movie. This time on one of the guards who is closing the back prison gate on the Ewoks, but multiple Marauders in later scenes can be seen wearing it as well. That same Marauder can be seen wearing this leathery belt and fur skirt thing that fans of the Return of the Jedi Kenner line should be familiar with, and that is formerly Klaatu, now known as Woof's little skirt thing. I don't know if I'm weird, but that was always one of my favorite accessories, and it's cool to see it have new life in this Ewok movie, even after Woof's untimely death. Now, the angle is a little extreme here, but I'm pretty sure that this section of the Tawani family ship was actually once part of Boush's staff. And it seems like at least the bottom half of Boush's staff was used again as part of Noah's ship towards the end of the movie. That Vizam is a popular guy. His little gauntlet things were handed off to this Marauder gunner. This is another one for you action figure fans, but the Kenner character known as Nikto, now known as Lathe, lent his shoulder armor to this goon right here, and again, it can be spotted several times throughout the movie. And this guy in the background of the scene has Cathaba, one of the skiff guards, has his belt on. Now this next piece is one of the more famous pieces of proper use in the Ewok movie, and that is how 2 thermal detonators planted on the Endor bunker have been put end to end to become the coveted power source in this movie. But my favorite piece in this scene is the part of the ship that is actually the tortured Gonk droid from the droid dungeon scene in Return of the Jedi. Now, let me flip that upside down so you can see it better. Some of the markings don't match, but all the 3D parts are the same, so I'm pretty certain this is the droid we're looking for. I especially like this because you get a clearer shot of this droid here than what you get to see in Return of the Jedi. Plus, later on in the scene, the droid's flipped around to face the other way, which again is a better view than what you get to see in Return of the Jedi. When the Marauders are about to march, you can see this guy who's wearing the Klaatu skiff guard collar piece. Also in this shot, you can see one of many appearances of the Lando Calrissian Weequay staff from Jabba's palace and the sail barge. Now, one of the most surprising reuses can be seen here too, and that is a Mon Calamari belt. I was pretty shocked to see that was repurposed, but you can see it kind of, they've added some stuff to it to make it blend in there. This right here, I believe this piece is Vidane's backpack, but I could be wrong about that. We also get a glimpse of a Gamorrean guard staff, which is better seen later in the Marauder castle. This Blurg rider is wearing these little greeblies that are worn by Y-Wing, B-Wing, and A-Wing pilots. No idea which particular one it's from. Now, the second main section of this movie is when Sindel and Wicket escape and meet Noah. Inside Noah's house, we see a B-Wing helmet hanging on the wall, and it happens to be this B-Wing helmet right here. And I'd love to tell you which particular B-Wing pilot from Return of the Jedi this belongs to, but the 4 of them are so far in the distance and the pictures of them are so blurry that I really can't distinguish one helmet from the other. Noah can also be seen wearing an AT-ST driver uniform as evidenced by this pocket on his sleeve. Now, by the fireplace appears to be part of a clue horn, which of course is a cantina instrument from A New Hope. And this prop here, this goes back to Empire Strikes Back. If you look closely, Noah has a slightly modified Bespin security guard gun, which he later adds a grappling hook to. The next main segment of the movie is the infiltration of the castle. There are tons of cool props hiding in the various nooks and crannies of the Marauder castle. One really famous reuse is Tarek's throne, which is made from a speeder bike, or maybe 2, that's been taken apart and reassembled, as you can see in these comparison shots. The speeder bikes have been turned sideways and upside down and backwards to create this throne with the help of the sides of the Gonk droid torturing device from Jabba's dungeon. Next, this is just a guess, but I'm fairly sure that here is an Endor troop helmet without the fabric top on it. You can kind of see this again during the battle. Then in the Marauder dungeon on either side of the main archway, we see the Abyssian heads that once adorned Jabba's dais. And we see one again when the Marauders sound the alarm. The alarm itself appears to be the Cantina Band clue horn instrument again, this time as chimes and held together with speeder bike handlebars, of all things, which also appear again leaning against the wall in a later shot. In the prison, we see another famously reused prop that's not actually from any Star Wars movie, and that is the metal rack right here that instead comes from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is the rack that Willie Scott was lured into the fire pit using. The prison also features the Imperial binders that once held Luke on his journey to see the Emperor. They now appear to have been holding Noah's friend Salak in prison. The remains of Salak also have an A-Wing pilot helmet with them. Leaning up against this table, you can see many redressed Endor Rebel Commando rifles. And this guy who gets shot in the foot, I believe, and I could be wrong again, but I believe his robe might be that of one of the Tusken Raiders from A New Hope. Not super confident there, though. Noah appears to have the canvas version of the Rebel Commando backpack. There's 2 different backpacks that Rebel Commandos wear on Endor. And once the Ewoks escape, the final battle really kicks in. And here the creators of this movie got really creative with their reuse because they wanted the Marauder army to seem really massive. And as the Marauders follow the Ewoks into the forest, you can see what appears to be a few wearing Boba Fett helmets. Boba Fett? Where? In fact, what they have is redressed AT-ST driver helmets. And you can see they use them several times in this scene. The next helmet is really unexpected, but this Marauder right here has an X-Wing pilot helmet. I'm thinking it's Theron Nett's helmet from A New Hope, but I'm not really certain about that. A bit more expected is this helmet because the Marauders seem much more like Jabba's entourage than Imperials and Rebels. And this helmet happens to be Klaatu's. Back on Noah's starship, the same flooring as seen many places in Star Wars, like the Death Star, the Millennium Falcon, and the Endor bunker. He's got the same sort of flooring that they use, so I don't know which of those places it's actually from. Then we got to see our first unused footage from Return of the Jedi, and these moments are pretty cool because I'm always fascinated by what things get filmed and never used. These ones feature Ewoks making signals to each other, and some footage of Wicket blowing a double horn. It's subtle, but you can see the Wicket mask and cowl are a little bit different from how they appeared in the rest of this movie. That's how you can tell it's from Return of the Jedi. Before the next cutting room floor footage, there are these two goons that are battling Ewoks that are swinging from branches like Tarzan. The one goon is sporting the robe tunic thing that the pilot of the second skiff, Pote Snitkin, wears in the Return of the Jedi's Sarlacc scene. Next, we have the last bit of unused footage from Return of the Jedi that I could find. And it starts off with the Ewoks throwing spears here. And then I think these two shots of the Ewoks shooting arrows and then again celebrating afterwards, I think both of those shots are from Return of the Jedi as well. And we see the return of the barge gun. And now this time the other style of Endor backpack is used with that. And now I don't know if Noah, after this whole battle and everything, if he sustained any injuries in this adventure. But right after he turns the lights on in his ship, you can see he conveniently has the medical droid FX7 from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi on board just in case. Unfortunately, I don't think the healing abilities of even FX7 can help his friend Sarlacc. R.I.P. Noah also has the Cantina Band instrument I consider to be the double Jossamer on board. Glimpses of this instrument can be seen in the Cantina scene from Star Wars A New Hope, but it's much more visible in the Star Wars Holiday Special. To the left of this doorway where we found FX7 and the double Jossamer, you see this panel of Greeblies, and these are actually 6 little squares from the Death Star. These are Death Star surface panels that had been, they made molds of and reused over and over again to make the surface of the Death Star for A New Hope and again for Return of the Jedi. What's kind of crazy is that now that I've just about wrapped up this video, I kind of want to watch the movie again and see if there's anything I missed. Did you notice any props reuse that I didn't mention in this video? Let me know in the comments or share a picture of the prop on Instagram. While that wraps up all the props I found in the Battle for Endor, I still want to talk about that weird original ending that still remains in the film. Basically, someone thought that it'd be a good idea to have these Marauders suddenly become good guys, or at least like sympathetic characters, despite killing Sindel's whole family in the beginning. You can see the Marauders standing quietly behind the Ewoks, but only they're blurry and in the background of close-up shots. It seems that someone realized that maybe the Marauders didn't really do anything to warrant a redemption arc, or whatever they did to be considered good at the end was cut from the movie. I imagine they were originally in the wide shots too, but once they decided not to go that route, I'm guessing they had to reshoot the ending sequence. But I don't have any evidence of this other than I found this cool picture of the scene being shot in the book Star Wars Chronicles, and you can clearly see all the Marauders just hanging around for some reason. I think they definitely made the right choice in not trying to shoehorn in some sort of Marauders turn good ending for this movie. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. This has been Bert.